All right, going to get the crimp started for you. First step, take it's a size 4. I'll tie this in, 2s, 4s, 6s, even some 8s occasionally, but a 4 is an awfully nice size for a lot of different things. I'm just going to put this is some fluorescent yellow chartreuse flat wax nylon. Use whatever thread you want to. Next, take some small lead dumbbells and just, 1/8 of an inch short of the eye of the hook. Just get a couple of figure 8s to get them in place. Some zap-a-gap, and then I'm just going to kind of go up and around the eye underneath the shank and gradually get tighter. Build up some thread, 10, 12 wraps. Then I'm going to come underneath and just go around those thread wraps. Squeezes them even tighter. Just make sure before that glue dries all the way that you're perpendicular. Next, I'm going to take some sand craft fur. Use any color you want to. I definitely tie this in a bunch of different flavors, but tan is a hard one to go wrong with. Going to pull out the under fur there, and then pull out the real long fibers and line them up with kind of everything else. So you have a little bit more material there at the tip. I'm just going to trim those flush and then wind them right behind the lead eyes. Wind them back all the way to the barb. Trim those fibers just a little bit more. Next, I'm going to take, this is some Spanflex material. It has, lots of different names. And this stuff I've kind of, put together a big wad of them with a zip tie and then colored them up with a red and a brown Sharpie. This particular kind of brand of Spanflex is from Fly Tyer's Dungeon here in Montana. I really like their materials, but I especially like this. He has this material in a few different gauges, which is kind of hard to find. And this is what he calls baby bug legs. But it's a great material for this particular bug. These are maybe about 3 inches long in total. And I'm just going to take them and just want those red tips to stick out over top of the craft fur. And then whatever's left over here, just pull those guys back and lash them down. Next, I'm going to take some pre-made shrimp eyes that I made out of some 5-minute epoxy, a couple little glass beads, and some monofilament. And these are pretty easy to make yourself. Just slip on a couple of glass beads of your choosing, singe the ends so they don't slip off, and then you just dip them in some 5-minute epoxy. You can use UV resin too. Or you can use any of the shrimp, pre-made shrimp eyes that are out there on the market today. I'm just going to take those. I'm going to put one on one side, one on the other. Lash those down on the sides. Kind of work them back all the way to the lead eyes and then back up again. And then same thing on this side. And then kind of pull them out to the sides a bit, like so. Take some Zap-A-Gap, and I'm just going to douse that whole thread area, that whole shank, with Zap-A-Gap. Next, I'm going to take some sparkle yarn. Use any kind of yarn you want to. This is Aunt Lydia's rug yarn, which they no longer make, unfortunately, and is kind of tough to find. You can also use any type of synthetic material like EP fiber. Works very well for this flies too. So I'm just going to take some tan, some darker tan, and then a contrasting color. Just a figure 8 over top of that wet super glue and kind of pull it tight is really all you need to do to secure that. And just like you would, you know, a Del Brown merkin crab, we're going to have a similar body to that. And go back to those Spanflex legs, and this time I'm going to take half a dozen of them or so. And after I tie on 2 chunks of yarn, I'm going to go ahead and tie in those 6 legs, leave a little bit more here than you would up here. And I'm going to wind them back to just about the lead eyes. 2 more alternating chunks of yarn. Come on now, behave. Okay, just like that. I'm going to take those rubber legs and fold them back. And we got one little notch left here for a piece of sparkle yarn, which I forgot to get. And then kind of lastly, one kind of hot orange piece. Do pink, do whatever you want to. Generally speaking, when I tie this fly, it leans towards tan to brown to cream, those 3 colors, but tie in whatever color you want to. From here, I'm going to gather up all those legs in my left hand and then just fold all those pieces of yarn like that, pinch them, come up from underneath, and then just use my thumb and forefinger as a guide to trim it. Trim it how you want to. You can do some more round like a crab or some more streamlined. I kind of like to do a mix of the two and just kind of stay in the dimensions. I usually start, you know, pretty close there by the lead eyes. About like that. And then I'm going to skip my thread right up to just short of the eye of the hook, and then take another wad of craft fur. Same thing as we did before. Pull out the shorts, and then realign, kind of hand stack this to where you have a little bit more material gathered together. Then I'm just going to trim it flush here. Then I'm going to try and line up that cut with the eye of the hook, loose wrap all the way around, and just kind of gather it up before you tighten. And that will help keep that eye a little bit cleaner. Just like so. Very last step, take some UV tan crystal flash. I love this color on bonefish and permit flies, light colored flies. Take 2 full lengths of that crystal flash, and then I come around the thread, and then just with 2 wraps, 3 wraps, lash that down, trim it even with the end of the craft fur. Single half hitch or whip finish, chef's choice. And then coat that thread with some Zap-A-Gap. And we've got our completed crimp. Really good pattern. Kind of my longest tenured fly with Umpqua. It's caught its fair share of really nice fish. Super popular fly down on Grand Bahama, and certainly has made inroads in other places. And one of the things I really like about it is with this, you know, kind of crab body on there. You know, unless you're tying obviously a real heavy one, it's going to rocket right to the bottom. But with a moderately weighted version of this, it tends to glide down on a 45-degree angle. and you know, kind of has a life of its own, even just on the drop. But tie some up and go take them fishing.